Hello, this is Judy, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the March 30th, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. I will do my best to pronounce all names and words correctly, yet please forgive me if I do not. And our first article is under real estate, and the title states, Mark Carney, Doug Ford to cut development charges by up to 50% to boost housing construction. Ontario and Fed say new partnership will reduce taxes. Ontario and Fed say new partnership will reduce taxes and fees for a new home in Ontario by up to $200,000. And this article is written by Clary Feinstein, Feinstein, who is a business reporter, and Ryan Tumilty, Tumilty, of the Ottawa Bureau. The Ontario and federal governments announced a plan to boost housing supply by reducing municipal development charges by up to 50%. On Monday morning in Etobicoke, Prime Minister Mark Carney and Premier Doug Ford announced a new partnership to build more affordable homes, saying the partnership, which includes a new program axing HST on certain new homes, will reduce taxes and fees for a new home in Ontario by up to $200,000. All three levels of government also announced a plan to build the transit line serving Toronto's eastern waterfront, including the East Bayfront and Portlands. The line will serve more than 150,000 people, support over 50,000 daily trips, and is expected to enable 75,000 housing units. Industry veterans have said that development charges, fees paid to municipality to fund local infrastructure when a building is being constructed or expanded, have been a significant cost barrier for developers to build more. They have become a major hurdle in the Ontario housing market, Carney said during the press conference. In recent years, they have been growing at an unsustainable rate, increasing the cost of every new home, compressing margins, and stalling new builds. Cutting development charges was a key commitment of our housing plan. The federal government and Ontario have responded by cost matching a total of $8.8 billion over 10 years, focused on housing infrastructure projects. This funding will support the reduction of municipal development charges by up to 50%. The reductions will be in place for 3 years and target municipalities covering 80% of the province's population. This is our first agreement under our government's Build Community Strong Fund, and the first agreement in Canada history that ties federal infrastructure and funding directly to reductions in development charges, Carney said. Ford and Carney said new infrastructure funding will offset the financial impact of development charge reductions on municipalities, and in turn, municipalities will be expected to support development charge reductions. If municipalities don't reduce development charges, Ford said, cities will not receive any government funding. But if you do, we'll be there to support you, Ford said. The province will work with municipalities to put forward a list of infrastructure projects for approval. Ford said the partnership will get more shovels in the ground and keep the dream of home ownership alive. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow said the reduction in development charges as well as the HST rebate for new homes will make a real difference. Housing is becoming more attainable for more people, she said. The Building Industry and Land Development Association, BILD, which has long advocated for the reduction of development charges, applauded the announcement. The beauty of this program is that it will not only result in reductions to development charges, but it will also ensure that municipalities continue to have the funding required to put the necessary pipes in the ground and to build much-needed transit, said Dave Wilkes, president and CEO of BILD. BILD said that the development charges range from tens of thousands of dollars in smaller municipalities to as much as $130,000 for a single-family home in the GTA. These charges have increased by as much as 1,000% in the last decade and a half. And it says this is a developing story. Claire Feinstein is a Toronto-based business reporter for The Star. You can reach Claire via email CLARIEFEINSTEIN at symbol TORSTAR.ca. Ryan Tumulty is an Ottawa-based reporter covering Parliament Hill. You can reach him at his email, which is RTUMILTY at symbol THESTAR.ca. This next article is under GTA, and the title is A Long-Awaited LRT to Serve Toronto's Booming Eastern Waterfront is Finally Getting Funding. Premier Doug Ford, Prime Minister Mark Carney, and Mayor Olivia Chow made this joint announcement about the Waterfront East LRT Monday. And this article is written by Ben Spurr, SPURR, who is a City Hall Bureau Chief. After decades of being stuck in limbo, a major Toronto transit project could finally be moving ahead. The federal, provincial, and municipal governments have agreed to each provide $1 billion for the Waterfront East LRT, a long-planned line that would serve rapidly growing neighborhoods along the East Bayfront and the Portlands. Premier Doug Ford made the announcement Monday at a joint news conference in Toronto with Prime Minister Mark Carney and Mayor Olivia Chow, where the trio touted their cooperation on housing and infrastructure projects. We're supporting the City of Toronto's new Waterfront East Transit line, Ford said, confirming it would be cost shared equally between the three levels of government. The Premier didn't immediately provide details of the project or timeline for its construction, but the City and Waterfront Toronto have developed plans for an LRT running from Union Station along Queens Quay to Cherry Street and Commissioner Street. With development rising across the eastern waterfront, including the newly unlocked properties of Okemos-Minnesing, formerly Villiers Island, the city has long warned that the burgeoning neighborhoods won't work without a high-order transit line to move their booming population. Although City Council and Waterfront Toronto, a tri-government organization, have advanced planning for the line, its construction remained unfunded as Queen's Park and Ottawa declined to commit money for it. On Monday, Chow called the line the crucial missing piece needed to unlock the waterfront. Once it's built, it will provide transit to a neighborhood of 150,000 people and carry about 50,000 riders a day, the mayor said. Generations of people will live in these communities and ride the waterfront transit line, she said. According to a provincial news release, the current cost estimates for the line are $3 billion. As a condition of the government, the federal and provincial governments will not bear costs for any overruns, it said. And Ben Spurr is the Star's City Hall Bureau Chief based in Toronto. You can reach him by email at bspurr at symbol THESTAR.ca. This next article is in the Canada section, and the title is Most Canadians Support Banning Social Media for Those Under 16 Years Old Survey. And an Angus Reid poll follows Australia's ban and finds strong concerns in this country. And this article is written by Morgan Savareed Boknek, and that's SEVAREID-BOCKNEK, who is a social issues reporter. A majority of Canadians say they support banning social media for children under 16 years old, according to a new survey from the Angus Reid Institute. Australia recently banned social media for people under 16, and it's the first country to do so. The Australian government has stated the ban aims to reduce children's exposure to harmful and violent content, as well as overall time spent on their phones. The survey polled Canadians on their views of social media broadly. Respondents reported nearly unanimously that they are concerned about children being exposed to cyberbullying, misinformation, and explicit content. 75% of respondents agreed with banning social media for kids under 16 years old. For those who supported a ban from specific apps, 88% of respondents pointed to TikTok, 86% said X, or the formerly called Twitter, and 84% said Snapchat. Only half of the respondents said YouTube should be included. 94% of those polled also said they were concerned about the negative mental health impacts and addictive effects that social media can have on young people. The report follows a ruling last week in California that found Meta and YouTube to be as addictive as cigarettes or digital casinos. A 20-year-old sued the tech giants over a childhood addiction to social media. The jury found the companies to be deliberately addictive and harmful to children, and the plaintiff was awarded $6 million US dollars. A similar ban to Australia's will be discussed by the Federal Liberal Party at the National Convention in April. The survey found parents with children ages 10 to 15 years old are more likely than not governing kids' social media use, and noted a majority of parents say they place restrictions on what apps children use, monitor their activity, or place time limits on their use of social media. Social media is still new enough that its impacts on society are still not fully understood, the report said. While there are benefits, including finding like-minded people and connecting with friends, studies find that frequent and unregulated social media use among adolescents is associated with a range of mental health harms, including depression, anxiety, poor sleep, and social pressures, according to the study. The Angus Reid Institute commissioned the survey and conducted it from March 11th to March 17th, polling 4,005 randomized Canadian adults. Those polled were taken from the Angus Reid Forum, which is an online panel that includes residents from each federal riding across the country and is representative of the population. For comparison purposes, a probability sample of this size would have a margin of error of plus or minus 1.5 percentage points 19 times out of 20. And Morgan Severeid-Boknek is a Toronto-based investigative reporter for The Star. This next article is under federal politics, and the title is Human Rights Tribunal Set to Deliver Verdict on First Nations Child Welfare Deal. And this is in Ottawa. The Canadian Human Rights Tribunal is expected to release a decision on Monday on a landmark First Nations child welfare deal reached between chiefs in Ontario and the federal government. And this article is written by Alyssa Passafiume, and that's Passafiume of the Canadian Press. Ottawa. The Canadian Human Rights Tribunal is expected to release a decision Monday on a landmark First Nations child welfare deal reached between chiefs in Ontario and the federal government. The decision could bring to an end a nearly 20-year dispute that began in 2007 when the Assembly of First Nations and the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society filed a joint human rights complaint about federal child welfare funding. In a ruling on that complaint in 2016, the tribunal concluded the federal government had discriminated against First Nations children by underfunding the on-reserve child welfare system and ordered reforms. Chiefs across the country twice voted down a national $47.8 billion deal proposed by the federal government to reform the child welfare system in 2024, saying it didn't go far enough on eliminating discrimination. Chiefs in Ontario, whose representatives with Nashawabi ASCII, Nation, and Chiefs of Ontario took part in the negotiations that led to the $47.8 billion national deal, voted in favor of a separate provincial deal last year. Ontario Regional Chief Abram Benedict said at the time they couldn't wait for a national agreement while their children continued to be harmed by the child welfare system. First Nations chiefs in Ontario are expected to speak about the decision Monday afternoon in Toronto, while Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Golmasti is set to hold a press conference in Ottawa. The Ontario-specific deal is largely in line with the national deal the chiefs rejected. Two competing deals to reform the child welfare system outside of Toronto were presented to the tribunal in December, one from the federal government and one drafted by First Nations leaders. Golmasti said in an interview at the time the government was introducing new components to the deal and allowing regions to decide for themselves how to invest in things like prevention programming or information technology. The federal child welfare plan offers $35.5 billion in funding to the year 2023-34, followed by an ongoing commitment of $4.4 billion annually. This report by the Canadian Press was first published March 30th, 2026. This article is in the World section, and the title is Europe, and it says a youth-led push for change threatens Orban's 16-year rule in Hungary's elections. And in Budapest, Hungary, a group of friends in their mid-20s campaigned door-to-door last week in a small Hungarian city, supporting a political movement that could soon end Prime Minister Viktor Orban's 16-year grip on power. And this article is written by Justin Spike of the Associated Press. In Budapest, Hungary, a group of friends in their mid-20s campaigned door-to-door last week in a small Hungarian city, supporting a political movement that could soon end Prime Minister Viktor Orban's 16-year grip on power. The young men from Hungary's Lake Balaton, that's Balaton region, were volunteering for the center-right TISZA party, T-I-S-Z-A party, and its leader, Peter Magyar, M-A-G-Y-A-R, and campaigning to move past what they described as Orban's broken system. We've lived our whole lives in this system, and we want to see what it could be like outside of it, said Florin Vegh, V-E-G-H, a 25-year-old student. I can say on behalf of my fellow university students and my friends that this system is absolutely dysfunctional. A generation gap is widening, with Hungary's youth pushing overwhelmingly for an end to Orban's autocratic rule, while the oldest citizens remain loyal to the prime minister, a split that could be a decisive factor in the April 12th elections. Orban, 62, trails in the polls behind Magyar, a 45-year-old lawyer who broke with Orban's nationalist populist Fidesz, F-I-D-E-S-Z party over a political scandal in 2024. He has led TISZA on a rapid political rise, inspiring a voting cohort that had largely avoided politics for at least 2 decades. Fidesz's declining popularity during economic stagnation and political and corruption scandals has widened the Democratic divide. A recent survey by Pollster 21 Research Center found that 65% of voters under 30 support TISZA, while 14% are backing Orban. Changing of the guard. One TISZA volunteer, 24-year-old student Levitin Koltai, K-O-L-T-A-I, pointed out that Fidesz is an acronym in Hungarian for Alliance of Young Democrats, but he believes the party no longer lives up to its name. Fidesz has lost the title of Young Democratic and Alliance, he told the Associated Press. It's gone from young to old, from democratic to tending towards dictatorial, and from an alliance to a circle of cronies. Andriy Zazbo, a senior researcher with EOTVOS, and that's EOTVOS, Lorand, Lorand, University's Institute for Political Science in Budapest, said a changing of the guard was emerging in Hungary, where a new active political generation is beginning to unfold before our eyes. While Orban's political generation was defined by its fight against Hungary's Soviet-era socialist system in the 1980s and 1990s, now we have reached the point where, after 25 years, there is a new political generation that is against the Orban regime, Zazbo said. Illiberal drift towards Russia and China, and illiberal is spelled Illiberal. Orban's government defines itself as both Christian national and illiberal, and has drifted away from partners in the European Union in favor of closer relations with Russia and China. Long accused by critics of taking over Hungary's institutions, clamping down on press freedom, and overseeing entrenched political corruption, charges he denies, Orban has become an icon in the global far-right movement. Admirers approve of his opposition to immigration and curtailing of LGBTQ plus rights, and applaud benefits to young families, such as abolishing income tax for mothers with multiple children and providing state-backed loans to first-time home owners. Such policies, as well as a pension supplemental for retirees, appeal to many older voters. Fidesz leads TISA 50% to 19% among retirement-age Hungarians, according to the 21st Century Center poll. Susanna Prepos, and it's Prepos, a retiree, said at one of Orban's recent campaign rallies that she was very happy with the government's pension policies and that she's supporting Fidesz because it helps young people. When I was young, I didn't get anything. Now young people have a lot of help, she said. Yet such measures have not translated into youth support for Orban. In several recent speeches, he has both scolded young people for their anti-government attitudes and pleaded with them to reconsider. Young people, wake up, he said at a rally last week. These are not times for taking risks, experimenting, or trying new things. Believe me, today only Fidesz and my humble self can provide this country with security. Szabo, the researcher, said, while many young people view Orban's family support policies positively, their very strong sense of justice is incompatible with the authoritarian exercise of power, the corruption, the fact that they feel vulnerable, and that there is insecurity in the country. Their lives essentially took place entirely within the Orban regime, so they know nothing other than this kind of functioning of power, she said. TISA's rise. Recent events in Hungary have turned large numbers of youth against the ruling party. Hungary was rocked by scandal in February of 2024 when it was revealed that the president, a close Orban ally, had granted a pardon to an accomplice in a child sexual abuse case. The revelation shocked the country, and the president and justice minister resigned. Days later, some of the country's best-known influencers led a protest demanding a political transformation. Drawing tens of thousands, it marked a turning point which opened the door to politicization for a lot of young people, Szabo said. In the wake of the pardon scandal, Magyar broke with Fidesz and launched TISA. 3 months later, the party won 30% of the vote in European Parliament elections. Magyar has built his campaign on promises to end Orban's drift towards Russia and restore Hungary's Western orientation, and to revive the stagnating economy by recovering billions in EU funds that are blocked over rule of law and corruption concerns. That economic message has resonated with youth. V, the TISA volunteer, said it's easier than ever for his internet-savvy generation to access different forms of information and to travel to nearby countries where governments are putting public money to good use. In Austria, you see a much calmer, more peaceful, more educated society with better roads and better healthcare, he said. You cross the border and see you have drifted into developed European country. Although TISA leads in the polls, its victory is far from assured. Orban has a lead among older voters and in much of the countryside. At a recent rally in Budapest that drew upward of 100,000 people, TISA supporter Dorina Sosban, and that's Csoban, said the election battle had become pretty divisive in my family for the older people, because we younger people are saying clearly that there must be change. And this is written by the Associated Press. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article is under sports, and it's about the Leafs, and it's an opinion. Maple Leafs will be fired up to see Radko Gudas, Gudas again, if he plays Monday night. And this article is written by Dave Feschuk, Feschuk, who's a sports columnist. Ever since Radko Gudas kneecapped the Maple Leafs captain to an infamous collective shrug on March 12th, the reaction has been palpable. Widely mocked as gutless for their lack of immediate response, the Leafs have banded together to compile a delayed one. It's not a coincidence that, heading into Sunday, Toronto led the league in penalties since Gudas's knee-on-knee attack on Auston Matthews. Before the game in which Gudas ended Matthews' season, Toronto ranked a demure 21st in the stat. Expect at least a few more penalties Monday night when the Leafs visit Gudas's Anaheim Ducks. Gudas's availability is uncertain. He didn't play for the Ducks in Saturday night's loss to Edmonton after being injured in an awkward fall in a Thursday game against Calgary, his second outing since serving a 5-game suspension for the Matthews hit. So if Gudas doesn't play, well, clearly that will change the picture. But if he does, it would be worth tuning in to see the Leafs' idea of a payback. It's a game that means a lot from our side, so we'll be fired up, William Nylander recently assured the fan base. The Swede spoke in an extra blasé monotone, presumably for the menacing effect. History tells Gudas, if he is healthy enough to be in the lineup, won't back down. Mano-a-mano confrontation is a Czech stock in trade. And as much as he has expressed his alleged regret in injuring Matthews, I feel terrible about the outcome, he claimed. His contrition comes off as about as performative as Toronto's recent Tough Guy act. Nobody who has watched Gudas closely can deny this. Borderline dirty to outright dangerous plays are a big part of his brand. That is why he's been suspended 5 times for a total of 26 games, and why he remains a highly employable NHLer at age 35. Since Gudas came into the league, only Tom Wilson has compiled more penalty minutes. But it's not simply about taking all those penalties, it's about the threat of their collateral damage. It's about cultivating the fear factor, as Gudas once described it, that makes opponents constantly aware of your presence on the ice. It's about keeping the guys on the other team looking over their shoulder when they should be looking to make plays. The Leafs have been taking plenty of penalties, sure, but are they invoking that kind of uneasiness in their opposition? The question is rhetorical. Everyone knows the answer. Now, you have to start somewhere. The Leafs, after the Gudas incident, were starting from below ground, buried by critics as a lifeless corpse of a team. Since then, there have been heartening signs that at least a few Leafs, in more meaningful moments in future seasons, might not be complete pushovers. Easton Cowan's feisty reply to Nikita Zadorkov's hit from beyond the Toronto's John Tarvis in last week's win in Boston was the most compelling case in point. But if going to the box with foolish frequency is this team's idea of reasserting its on ice manhood, things are even more hopeless than previously thought. It doesn't take a genius to know that wanton disregard for discipline is never good for on ice product. In this case, of course, it has been good luck for the Leafs draft lottery odds. Heading into Sunday, the Leafs had sunk to fifth worst in the league in points percentage, boosting their chances at landing in the number one pick to 8.5%. That's good work in the fight to retain the top 5 protected pick traded to Boston in last year's ill-fated Brandon Carlo deal. Still, under normal conditions, with winning as the goal, the way the Leafs have responded to Gudas's goonery simply amounts to an unsustainable overreaction. It's one thing to exhibit snot, as Brand Treliving once described the quality that's long been in short supply in Toronto. It's another to cut off your runny nose to spite your face. We've been taking too many penalties of late for sure, Boobery told reporters recently, but I think guys are pretty tuned into getting involved and sticking up for each other. I have no problem with it. We don't need to retaliate on some subtle plays, but guys are getting in there. Heading into Sunday, the Leafs have given up a league-worst 9 power play goals against in the 8 games since the Matthew Gudas incident. Without Matthews in the lineup, they've gone 2 for 20 on the power play over that span. It's not a trade-off you recommend. You've got to be highly competitive and play hard against the Ducks. You can't go out and do stupid things, suspensions and things like that, Boobery told reporters around Sunday's 5-1 loss in St. Louis. That's not what it's all about. That's true, but a team that's been humiliated isn't exactly playing with its head. If Gudas is on the ice Monday night and the Leafs are as fired up as Nylander promises, surely Boobery could deal with the occasional overstep towards stupidity as long as his team shows some heart. And there's a correction in this article, and it states this column has been updated from a previously published version to correct that Radko Gudas is from Czechia, not Finland. Here's an opinion article, and the title is Doug Ford Says Ticketmaster is Gouging the People. His proposed resale cap won't stop that. And this is by Timothy Dewhurst, Dewhirst, who's a contributor. And Timothy Dewhurst is a professor and senior research fellow in marketing and public policy at the Gordon S. Lang School of Business and Economics at the University of Guelph, Guelp. Doug Ford recently announced a proposed law to prohibit tickets for live entertainment from being resold above face value. The premier earlier suggested such a law would be forthcoming in response to public outrage over the astonishing resale prices of Blue Jays tickets during the World Series last year. Ford said Ticketmaster was gouging the people as tickets were listed on its site entirely at resale prices, many going for thousands of dollars within 30 minutes of being made publicly available. Yet, while Ontario sports fans and concert goers can attest to the ticket buying process being broken, the proposed legislation is unlikely to make tickets more affordable. The proposed legislation looks to be focused on capping resale prices and does not appear applicable to the original pricing of tickets. For the James game at the Rogers Centre on March 28th, original price tickets in Section 117 exceeded $400. Section 117 is situated near first base, more than 10 rows behind the visiting team's dugout. The seats could be considered good, but they're not exceptional and don't include perks such as food and beverage service. But the second game of a lengthy MLB season against the Athletics, not a marquee team, it's an astonishing price. Or if you're looking to buy tickets for the game on April 7th against the Los Angeles Dodgers, you may find an original price seat, also in section 117, listed at $565.80. The difference from game to game for comparable seats appears to reflect the use of dynamic pricing. Often driven by AI, it's a way of adjusting prices based on changes in ticket demand and supply. As expected, there's high demand among Jays supporters to see the Dodgers play. The matchup represents a repeat of last year's World Series, and it offers baseball fans the chance to see Shohei Ohtani, and that's Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman in action. As the supply of available seats correspondingly dwindles, the prices go upward. The use of dynamic pricing, sometimes known as surge pricing, makes the notion of an original price murky. Ticketmaster also employs a price bundling strategy whereby multiple services are provided for one combined price. The company promotes supposed deals that allows customers to bundle their tickets with a hotel stay. For tickets to see Rush perform at Scotiabank Arena on August 11, seats classified as a VIP travel package for 2 people were the only ones not listed under a verified resale. Still, the package, consisting of 2 mid-floor seats and a one-night stay at Novotel, totaled $5,731.50. The tickets were identified as having a face value of $4,978, a service fee of $746.50, and an order processing fee of $7. For the face value price, it's unclear what proportion of the cost was for the tickets versus the hotel. In the future, Ticketmaster will likely present such VIP packages as tickets with original prices. The price bundling approach is normally meant to simplify customers' purchasing decisions and offer them perceived value. But it's hard to imagine many customers would view such a package as a good deal. Live Nation, Ticketmaster's parent company, has expressed support for the 4 government's proposed resale legislation. Serving a public relations function, the company has managed to seem like an agreeable corporate citizen while deflecting attention away from its much scrutinized role in the profiting off ticket resales. Ticketmaster ultimately won't be heard by forced legislation, and competition will likely become further limited in a marketplace that's already insufficiently competitive. Evidently, the notion of original prices is dubious. When reselling is no longer permissible, expect them to markedly rise. Our next article is in the business section, and it's an opinion article. It's Bougie on a Budget. Here are 5 ways to elevate your life without overspending. And this article is written by Leslie Ann Scorgie, Scorgie, a contributing columnist. And Leslie Ann Scorgie is a Toronto-based personal finance columnist and a freelance contributing columnist for The Star. They sip frigid Prosecco instead of champagne. They drive beautifully maintained, high-quality vehicles purchased secondhand, saving tens of thousands of dollars. And when they indulge, and they do, it's with money they have spent with intention. Their real secret to living bougie on a budget: confidence, not cost. Value over vanity. It's a mindset held by the wise frugal. You don't need to spend more to live better. You just need to spend smarter. Here are 5 ways to bougie up your life without going broke. First, learn the language of value. The bougie broke trend emerged on social media a few years ago in response to the cost of living crisis. Canadians are tired of being squeezed financially and want to live life better, even with minimal disposable income. They become creative, value-driven, and resourceful. They're no longer self-conscious or afraid to compare prices, wait for purchases strategically, and they've learned to negotiate. Before booking a hotel, for example, they're checking for off-peak pricing, promotions, or upgrades. A mid-tier hotel room with a free upgrade or added perks can deliver a luxury experience at a standard rate. If points can be applied to uplevel the experience, they're using these because they know that points become less valuable over time. 2. Buy better, not more. Being bougie doesn't mean having more, it means having better. It's about investing in fewer, higher quality items that last longer and feel really good to use. For example, a cheap $25 handbag that wears out quickly will cost more over time because of how many times it needs to be replaced, and probably doesn't look that good. Whereas a well-made one costing $150 can last decades and elevate your style for years, lowering your cost per use. If you love coffee, skip the daily $9 cafe au lait habit and invest in a quality home espresso machine. Your per cup cost drops dramatically, but your daily ritual feels even more indulgent. You'll also find that the bougie broke don't hoard. 3. The art of refreshing offers therapeutic benefits. Sometimes luxury isn't about buying brand new things, it's about improving what you already have. Cleaning, repairing, or restoring items can completely transform how they look and feel. The care and investment into this process of refreshing can be therapeutic, reinforcing that self-worth and confidence are untangled from stuff and things. Excuse me. A really good example is taking a used, high-quality car that's really dirty and giving it a full refresh. A deep interior clean, leather conditioning, a thorough exterior wash and polish, and even a subtle air freshener can make it feel brand new. The result? A luxury driving experience without the luxury car payment or expensive detailing bill. Create a better experience without paying more for it. Ask any brand expert and they'll share the data behind consumer experiences. Luxury is about how something feels, not what it costs. Why not focus on curating an environment or an experience that simply feels better or is more enjoyable? Instead of defaulting to expensive options, focus on elevating the experience. What would improve your home ambience? Could you declutter, switch the light bulbs to a warm tone versus cool, add plants, reorganize furniture, invest in an inexpensive throw blanket or new sheets? What would taste better if you learned to cook some new recipes with potentially higher quality ingredients? Could you recreate a restaurant meal at home? Throw in a $20 bottle of wine and a thoughtful playlist, and the whole experience will be elevated. Creating better feeling experiences can also help combat social spending pressures, which are a drag on our mental well-being in an already stressful time. Taking advantage of the secondhand market. Consignment shops, vintage stores, personal posts on social media, and online marketplaces are gold mines for high-quality items at a fraction of the price. It's exciting to find value that others have overlooked. From secondhand cars to wedding dresses to furniture to designer handbag, you can elevate your bouginess without huge costs. Use the same secondhand market to sell off things you don't need, like strollers, bags, cars, tires, and toys. The danger in chasing a bougie lifestyle is slipping into spending that looks good but doesn't make financial sense, which means you can't afford it. If you're upgrading your life on credit, carrying increasingly more debt, or buying for appearances, it's no longer smart. It's an expensive financial mistake. This next article is under food and drink, and it says this $12 Nepalese, Nepalese donut and fiery potato dish is the best thing I ate in Toronto this week. Our food reporter explores the city in search of the most delicious and affordable dishes Toronto and the GTA has to offer. And this article is written by Karen Liu, Liu, who is a food reporter. And It says Jumbo Himalayans Seroti, Selroti, and Piro, Piro, Alu, ALU, $11.99, 1508 Queen Street West. The dish. This shareable light vegetarian meal, or an appetizer if you're really hungry, comes in two parts. The first is sel roti, a semi-sweet fried donut made from rice flour. It has a crispy, slightly bumpy exterior and a bready, pillowy, almost mochi-like chew on the inside. Use your hands to rip it apart and eat it with pero alu, a super fiery dish of creamy boiled potatoes tossed with mustard oil, fenugreek, and chiles. The crunchy pickles on the side help temper the heat with a hit of sweet acidity, but this is a dish for heat lovers for sure. It's a wonderful juxtaposition of crispy, chewy sweet bread and spicy, creamy potatoes. The cuisine. Opened in spring of 2023, Jimbu is named after an aromatic herb that resembles grass and is native to Nepal. It is commonly dried and used to infuse dishes with an oniony chive-like flavor. More specifically, Jimbu, and that's spelled Jimbu, specializes in Tikali cuisine from the Mustang region in north-central Nepal. One of the things this cuisine is known for is the thali, which is Thaly, a complete set meal in which various curries, vegetables, meats, legumes, rice, and condiments are laid out on a large metal platter. Torontonians are perhaps more familiar with ordering thalis at Indian restaurants. What else is on the menu? Jumbu's main specialty is a talhalis, the shareable Nago platter, and that's Nanglo, for $28.99, is a beautiful spread of curried chicken, a Nepali roasted soybean salad, the aforementioned pero alu, spicy pickled carrots and cucumber, spicy fried chicken gizzards and liver, peanuts, and flattened rice, which is pohe, P-O-H-E. The latter is rice that's been soaked in water and pounded into flakes, typically found in South and Southeast Asian cuisines. It adds a nutty, crispy finish when sprinkled on top of the tender curried meats and vegetables. The Tikali thali, which is $18.99, is sized for a single diner and contains a spread of stewy black lentils, mustard greens, creamy potatoes, gundruk, Gundruk, which is fermented leafy greens, and a papadum, Papadum, yogurt and chutney, a side of rice, and a choice of curried mutton, chicken, or vegetables. I opted for the tender mutton since it's less common on menus. If the heat from the dishes is too much, order a glass of Khattu, and that's Khattu, $5, a salted plum mashed and mixed with soda water for a salty sweet palate cleanser. A side of Tingmo, Tingmo, for $2.99. A plain steamed bun can also help diffuse some of the chili heat. The restaurant also serves momos in the requisite steamed, pan-fried, or deep-fried forms, starting at $12.99 for 10, with the choice of chicken, beef, or vegetable fillings. But Jimbu stands out for also offering buffalo. Explore the area. Further east along this strip of Parkdale's Little Tibet neighborhood is a perennial crowd favorite, Logan's Corner, which has two locations within steps of each other. 1407 Queen Street West for the larger, newer location that's a bit more friendly for strollers and mobility devices, and 216 Close Ave for the original smaller location. It's a no-frills steamed and fried momo spot with one of the most affordable menus. Further east is Shambhala, and that's Shambhala Kitchen, which is at 1406 Queen Street West, that makes an excellent bowl of hearty thukpa, THUKPA, Tibetan hand-pulled noodles. This next article is under GTA, and the title is North York Harvest Food Bank receives transformative $4 million donation for a new community hub. The donation from the Sprout Foundation is a landmark investment in supporting emergency food access, the food bank said Monday. And this article is written by Maya Tustonic, Tustonic, who is a staff reporter. The North York Harvest Food Bank received a $4 million donation, the single largest investment in its history to support a new community food hub. The donation from the Sprout Foundation is a landmark investment in supporting emergency food access and combating food insecurity in Toronto, according to the food bank's Monday announcement. The investment will fund the Community Food Hub, a space that aims to address immediate food needs by expanding the food bank's storage and food preparation capacity, while also tackling the root causes of food insecurity. The project represents a shift from emergency response towards sustainable systems-level change, the food bank said. It will allow the food bank to distribute food through youth hubs at public libraries, school food programs, and other nonprofit partners across the Greater Toronto Area, according to the food bank's executive director, Ryan Noble. Megan Lorius, executive director of the Sprout Foundation, said the foundation is proud to support an approach that addresses underlying challenges leading to hunger and homelessness. North York Harvest Food Bank is building more than a food facility. They are creating an innovative, community-centered model that addresses hunger with dignity and purpose, Loria said. The Sprout Foundation will also support a matching initiative where every dollar donated to the food bank will be matched by a $4 donation from the foundation. From the North York Harvest Food Bank, the foundation's donation will be transformative, according to Noble. It allows us to reimagine how food banks operate, moving beyond crisis response towards long-term solutions that restore dignity, build skills, and strengthen our community, he said. The Community Food Hub will change how we support people today and for generations to come. The donation comes as Torontonians are turning to food banks more often, even if they have multiple jobs or post-secondary degrees, according to a report from the North York Harvest Food Bank and the Daily Bread Food Bank in the fall. Visits to Toronto food banks have increased by 340% since 2019, according to the report, to a total of more than 4 million from April 1st, 2024 to March 31st. The chief executive officers of Toronto's food banks have pointed to unaffordable housing and the inability of full-time work to support life costs as factors driving up increased reliance on food banks. Use of the North York Harvest Food Bank has doubled, even tripled in recent years, Noble said. We know that we cannot continue to operate the way we have, he said, and we know that we cannot do it alone, and that is why we are so incredibly grateful to the Sprout Foundation and to everyone who will participate in this campaign going forward. And Maya Tustonic is a staff reporter with The Star. She can be reached at her email, which is mtustonic @ THESTAR.ca. Our last article today is under business, and the title is GTA New Home Sales Increase Slightly in February, but momentum could build with the expanded HST rebate. There were 531 new home sales in February, up 16% from February 2025, but 76% below the 10-year average for the GTA. And this article is written by Claire Feinstein, who is a business reporter. While GTA new home sales increased by 16% over year in February, sales remain well below the historical average. But the expansion of the HST rebate on new homes, as well as A good selection of inventory and lower prices could boost sales for the rest of the year, the Building Industry and Land Development Association, BILD, said in its monthly report Monday. There were 531 new home sales in February, up 16% from February 2025, but 76% below the 10-year average for the GTA. Historically, new home sales for a typical February in the GTA would be 2,251 units. New home sales in February 2026 continue to fall well short of historic norms, with only a modest increase from the previous year's record low for the month, said Edward Jagg, research manager for Altus Group, BILD's source for new home market data. A stable interest rate environment coupled with elevated inventory levels present potential buyers with plenty of opportunity to buy a new home. However, persistent concerns around affordability and geopolitical tensions continue to weigh on buyers' minds. There were 171 units sold for new condos, down 2% from February 2025 and 88% below the 10-year average. Single-family homes performed better with 360 sales, an increase of 27% year over year, but 57% below the 10-year average. Total new home remaining inventory in the GTA was relatively flat compared to January, with 20,291 units listed. The inventory level, the time it would take to sell inventory on the market based on the current demand, is 27 months. A healthy market level is around 9 to 12 months. While the market remains sluggish, it presents a golden opportunity for buyers, said Justin Sherwood, BILD's Chief Operating Officer. Housing prices have moderated over 20% on average since 2022, and an unparalleled product choice due to high inventory level gives homeowners an historic opportunity to enter the market, Sherwood said. The price for new condos has remained around $1 million for some time, Sherwood said, and February was no different, with the price sitting at $1.02 million. And for new single-family homes, the price was $1.42 million, down 7.4% over the last 12 months. On March 25th, the federal and provincial governments injected $2.2 billion into Ontario's sputtering homes construction industry, with a one-year break on the HST for buyers of new houses and condos. This means new home buyers are exempt from the 13% harmonized sales tax for 1 year on all new homes worth $1 million or less. It is an expansion of the existing rebate introduced last fall that was only available to first-time buyers of new homes. However, some critics warn the HST expansion can invite more investors into the market instead of helping homeowners. With a temporary harmonized sales tax cut announced last week by Ontario and federal government for all new home buyers, now is truly the best time in a decade for those looking to buy a new home to get into the market, Sherwood said. And Claire Feinstein is a Toronto-based business reporter for The Star. You can reach her at her email, which is Clarifeinstein @ symbol TORSTAR.ca. And you have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 30th, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star. Your reader has been Judy, that's me, and it's been my pleasure and an honor to read to you. Thank you so much for listening, and take care of your amazing selves and have a magnificent day.